On many heads as a bureaucrat, as a member of parliament, and as a minister. Outspoken, insightful, and learned, he brings a wealth of experience that is invaluable for us. My esteemed sister and brother judges, it fills me with immense pride and deep respect to welcome you all today. I began my career in the hallowed halls of the district courts, observing, learning, and guided by judges and lawyers. I owe a debt of gratitude to the district judiciary. In the expanse of the judicial hierarchy, the district judiciary often finds itself overshadowed by the high courts and the Supreme Court, receiving less limelight and coverage. To put things in perspective, in the calendar year 2023, our district courts handled more than 10 times more cases than the high courts. Therefore, it is said, and I quote, if an evaluation were to be made of the importance of the role of different functionaries who play their part in the administration of justice, the top position would necessarily have to be assigned to the district court judge. It is mostly the district court judge rather than the appellate judge that the members of the general public come in contact, whether as parties or as witnesses, and thus the image of the judiciary for the common man is projected by our district court judges. Today, the entire judiciary is faced with the problem of pendency and backlog of cases. Thus, efficient functioning of the district judiciary is crucial to mitigating these challenges. To look at a brighter side, the data reveals that disposal rates in the district courts have gone up considerably since 2018. In 2018, the percentage of civil cases disposed of, including previously pending cases, compared to the freshly instituted cases, stood at 93.15%. Remarkably, in 2023, the disposal rate of civil cases shot up to 99.61%. In 2018, the rate of disposal of criminal cases stood at 86.65%. In 2023, the rate increased to 95%. A closer look at the data from 2023 reveals the following interesting data points. Majority of the civil cases, amounting to 38.24%, were disposed of within a year of being instituted. 71.82% of the criminal cases were disposed of in 1 year. Approximately 11 states successfully reduced the case backlogs by disposing of more cases than were instituted in the year. Thus, in these 11 states, cleared a proportion of the backlog cases compounded over the previous years. We have taken a number of steps to reduce pendency, including taking help of Lok Adalats as far as traffic challans is concerned, creation of e-courts to deal with Lok Adalats as well as petty offenses. Judicial impact assessment, a much discussed strategy for case management at all tiers of the judiciary, can be a powerful tool in assessment and enhancing the human resource and infrastructure in judiciary. This assessment has legislative and executive connotations as well. Truly interacting with the data represents, we can know our successes and weak points. Ultimately, it is not the grandeur of the courtrooms or the sophistication of our technology that will define us. Rather, we will be defined by our unwavering commitment to delivering justice, by enhancing access to justice, serving the people with compassion, empathy, and fairness. Thank you, and Jai Hind.
Thank you so much, sir, for your profound words of wisdom, which have truly set the perfect tone for deliberations ahead. I would now like to request Shri Kapil Sibal, President, Supreme Court Bar Association, to address this distinguished gathering.
Honorable Prime Minister of India, may I take the liberty to call you Narendra Bhaiji, distinguished dignitaries present here, I feel honored and privileged to be present here at the National Conference of the District Judiciary to mark the 75th year of the establishment of the Supreme Court of India. Any structure with a weak foundation will impact the edifice and eventually collapse. The justice delivery system at the foundation of the judicial structure needs to be strengthened both in terms of quantity and quality of manpower and infrastructure. Our trial court and district and session courts need to be empowered to deliver justice without fear and favor, unless people at the bottom of the pyramid have the ability to withstand the pressure the superstructure of the polity will not be able to deliver. I don't want to call the judiciary at the level of the trial court and district and session judges to be subordinate, because the judge sitting there delivers justice, and the question of being considered as subordinate to any authority is a contradiction in terms. The judiciary at that level should be instilled with the confidence that their judicial pronouncements shall never be held against them, and that they represent the spinal cord of the justice delivery system. They should have the flexibility and the independence to render judgments in accordance with law without fear or favor. The effectiveness, fairness, and integrity of the courts impacts the perception of the public on the credibility of the entire judicial system. The fact that the trial court and district and session courts are loath to grant bail in matters of some significance itself is symptomatic of the malaise that has set in. In the course of my career, I have seldom witnessed the grant of bail at that level. This is not just my experience, but the Chief Justice of India has said often enough that court at the highest level is burdened with matters of bail, because at the level of trial courts and district and session courts, bail seems to be an exception. Of course, it goes without saying that the grant of bail depends on the facts and circumstances of each case, but the pronouncements of the court have in the recent past adhered to the principle that bail is the rule and jail an exception. We've seen trends harking back to the law laid down in Gurbaksh Singh Sibia, wherein this principle has been enunciated and has now been reiterated by the Supreme Court of India in several recent judgments, even in relation to special acts which require stringent twin conditions. Liberty is the foundational substratum of a thriving democracy. Any attempt to throttle it impacts the quality of our democracy. Moving away from liberty, we need to address the problems being faced by trial courts and the district and sessions courts, which impede the quality of the justice delivery system. The judge population ratio in India is abysmally low, 21 judges to a million population, as compared to over 100, and in Europe, over 200 judges to a million population. Therefore, the roster at the level of the trial and district and session courts is overburdened on a daily basis, which impacts not just the justice delivery system, but lives of millions who are waiting for justice to be delivered. They come to court day in and day out for their matters to be heard expeditiously and fairly. However, in the absence of quick disposals, they have to wait for years, which impacts them both economically and mentally. The court cannot even imagine the mental agony and the economic consequences of these kind of delays. Furthermore, our young, talented people choose not to seek appointments at the trial and district sessions courts due to abysmal conditions in which judges operate. Despite this, many of the judges, through sheer hard work and commitment to the cause, are doing yeoman service to the nation, even though they are handicapped by lack of proper courtrooms and office facilities, supporting staff, including stenographers, library facilities at home, appropriate residential accommodation, and necessary transportation facilities. Needless to mention the meager salary that those serving the cause of the nation draw to discharge their duties. Unless we are able to improve their conditions of work, both in terms of salary and infrastructure, the quantity and quality of the justice delivery system will suffer. Some of the problems that need to be addressed are the following, and I will not elaborate on them. Pension. Despite the fact that the Supreme Court had accepted recommendations of the Shetty Commission and subsequently the Padmanabhan Committee, the NPS was made applicable to judges of district courts from 2005 without even consulting the high courts. The major disadvantage of NPS that the monthly annuity provided to judicial officers after retirement is much less than the pension that a judicial officer having the same length of service and having retired from the same rank receives. Under the NPS, the retired judge gets a monthly annuity, in some cases to as low as 13,965, as against 1,63,000 under the old pension scheme. Promotions. The promotional avenues are limited for judges who join as civil judges in the district judiciary. Some judges join as civil judge and retire as civil judge. While the Shetty Commission had highlighted the problem and suggested a weighted system, but it was rejected by the Supreme Court on ground that the introduction of a roster system would resolve the issue. It hasn't done so. Gender sensitization. Nationally, the share of women in the district judiciary has crossed 33%. However, a conducive work environment to welcome women judges is missing due to a lack of residential accommodations, separate washrooms in courtroom premises, creches, and security. Technology. Most of the judges of the district judiciary are not well equipped with technology for the purposes of research, conducting trials. While the libraries is diminishing from residential offices, judges are not properly trained to avail e-library and e-journal facilities, and in some cases, they're not even available. Incentives to join judicial services. Young and bright students from national law schools seldom join judicial services, as they do not see promotional avenues and lucrative monetary benefits. I urge everyone on the dais to urgently address the persistent issues being faced by judges of the trial and district and session courts, who are the backbone of our judicial system. It is time for us to make our justice delivery system more efficient, stronger, and viable. I echo the words of Andrew Jackson, who is often praised as an advocate for ordinary citizens, and I quote, "All the rights secured to the citizens under the Constitution are worth nothing in a mere bubble, except guaranteed to them by an independent and virtuous judiciary." Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Your address today brought a wealth of knowledge and experience that will undoubtedly inspire and inform all judicial officers attending this conference. May I now request Sri Manan Kumar Mishra, Chairman, Bar Council of India, to address this august gathering.
Honorable the Prime Minister of India, Sri Narendra Modi ji, Honorable the Chief Justice of India, Dr. D.Y. Chanchud, the dignitaries on the dais and off the dais. In my opinion, even after whatever shortcomings were pointed out by Mr. Kapil Sibal ji, judicial services are supposed to be the best and most prestigious today in comparison to all other services. The role of judges is one of the unparalleled gravity and immense responsibility. Our judiciary, the pillar of our constitution, embodies the very essence of justice in our democracy. It commands the deepest respect and trust from the citizen. Under the visionary leadership of Dr. Chanchud, the Indian judiciary has not only upheld this trust, but has also set a global benchmark, and the role of Indian judiciary as a torchbearer of justice is now recognized by the entire world. Sir, our vast nation with its rich diversity of languages, religions, and intricate legal frameworks renders the work of our judiciary particularly demanding. The complexity and sheer volumes of cases that our judges at all levels navigate are staggering. However, the efforts of our Modi ji's government in simplifying the legal landscape, repealing obsolete statutes, is laudable. Sir, Recent introduction of Lok Adalats by Supreme Court under the leadership of Dr. D.Y. Chanchur marks a significant milestone in judiciary's efforts to make justice more accessible and expeditious. The Chief Justice of India has taken historic and bold steps to strengthen the district and taluka judiciary also. This conference would prove a milestone in making the district judges emboldened in discharge of their functions. Sir, the role of Prime Minister as the leader of the world's largest democracy is one of the immense responsibility and unparalleled significance. Our Narendra Modi ji also navigates a complex landscape where national security is constantly under threat, requiring decisions that are both prudent and decisive. Ensuring the protection and safety of every citizen, regardless of religion or caste, is not a joke. It's a constitutional duty that demands unyielding and persistent, honest and sincere vigilance. And that is the reason today our Modi ji is the world's best Prime Minister and best diplomat. It may be Ukraine or Russia or any other country in trouble, they require the support of our Modi ji. Sir, you are an ideal. Your distinguished tenure of 15 years as Chief Minister of Gujarat, followed by over a decade of leadership as Prime Minister of India, stands as a remarkable reflection of a career marked by integrity and dedication. Such an exemplary and unblemished journey in public service serves as an inspiration to leaders and politicians worldwide. Really, sir, you are the great. Sir, the recent continuous unfortunate events in West Bengal, particularly the tragic rape and murder of a young lady doctor in West Bengal, have starkly illuminated the indispensable role of Supreme Court in safeguarding justice. The suo motu intervention of Honorable Chief Justice of India and Supreme Court in this case serves as a powerful reminder of the duty of judiciary to uphold the law and ensure accountability of a state's deliberate failure to handle the situation. It is our solemn duty to protect and uphold the Constitution. This revered document must not be exploited and for political gains, misleading the ignorant or the illiterate for electoral advantages poses a serious threat to the nation's stability. हमारे संविधान का माखौल ना उड़े, इसको मजाक ना बनाया जाए। देश का संविधान आरक्षण या लोकतंत्र को कोई खतरा नहीं है। आप सभी बुद्धिजीवी बखूबी जानते हैं, देश को यदि सही मायने में खतरा है तो इन बेबुनियाद बयानबाजी से जो सीधी सादी भोली भाली अनभिज्ञ जनता को बरगलाने का प्रयास करती है। Constitution is safe, reservation is safe at the hands of our Honorable Prime Minister and Honorable Chief Justice of India. Under the guise of human rights, no one should be permitted to compromise the sovereignty and security of our nation. The number of enemies within our country is swelling day by day, outnumbering even external ones. In conclusion, I must say, 25 lakh lawyers stand resolute as the defenders of our judiciary, its judges, as well as the government in its effort to combat enemies of the state and anti-social elements. I conclude by saying that the members of the legal and judicial framework and guardians of the Constitution, it is our solemn duty to uphold the principles enshrined in our Constitution. The judiciary and the executive must work in unison to protect the nation from both internal and external threats, ensuring that the Constitution is not misused for personal or political gains. Lawyers and judges are to remain vigilant and proactive, safeguarding the integrity of our nation and ensuring that justice prevails in every corner of country. I wish the conference a grand success. Jai Bharat Mata, Jai Bharat ka Samvidhan.
Thank you, sir. Moving ahead, I would now like to request Sri R. Venkatramani, Learned Attorney General for India, to say a few words on this landmark occasion. Kindly guide us with your words, sir.
Honorable the Prime Minister, distinguished dignitaries of the dais, distinguished invitees. You're part of a unique conference, unique in several senses. This is the first time, perhaps, after independence, all of us are assembling at the national level in the national capital to share our insights, experiences, and concerns relating to the district judiciary. This is also the first time that we assembled to remind ourselves that what concerns the district judiciary concerns the entire administration of justice at the national level. This is further unique because this conference will set in motion, institutionalizing the periodic stock-taking or the internet connectedness of administration of justice. This is also unique in the sense that the Supreme Court of India organized this conference inviting the entire legal fraternity to focus on the concerns which confront the entire district judiciary. I must hugely appreciate the ever-energetic Chief Justice of India and his companion justices for conceiving this conference. It is indeed very significant that the Honorable Prime Minister of India is with us today. That a Prime Minister who always intently listens is with us means that he is keen to underscore the importance of this conference. I mean to say that when the Honorable Prime Minister listens, he acts and executes what is just and for common good. The conference subjects have been chosen carefully, and all of them are so connected. And I will be too glad to be any part of any task to be undertaken. Just as the nation is moving into momentous stages of integrated social and economic development in the midst of visible and invisible challenges, global and domestic, and development informed by equity and equal regard, social partnership in new forms of knowledge and wealth creation. Courts are called upon to be partners in these national transformation programs. A good governance takes all suffering seriously, and courts are meant to take suffering seriously. The district judiciary takes the bulk and mass of justice demands and causes of we the people of India. It's called upon to be closer to the people in its task of doing justice. Taking suffering seriously and doing justice relevantly are so connected that the underlying tasks and agendas have to be drawn nationally. Administration of justice, if to remain in aid of citizens' pursuit of solace and comfort, ease and enablement, these agendas are important. How do we make and shape our court systems place of solace and comfort instead of being burdensome and uninviting? How do we ensure that the court environments are as good as the environments of leisure as would immensely contribute to the efficiency quotient of doing justice? How do we guarantee to the judges' work and service provisions that will incentivize honest and committed involvement? How do we creatively and innovatively develop emerging technologies as tools of doing justice? In a fundamental sense, how do we ensure that the district judiciary is enabled to bear its burdens with manifold support and assistance that they cease to be burdensome? Debates on these questions are timely. Unless the district judiciary is poised as good and important as the higher judiciary, national commitment to justice will be incomplete. Technology has come as a great boon to take care of doing away with current time-consuming and dispensable physical distances involving exercises. Probably, we need a national district judiciary capacity building commission. I say so because for long, Supreme Court has been involved in addressing the concerns of district judiciary. It is time that it gets institutionalized with the participation of government and the courts. I must also point out that the burgeoning call for rights enforcement and the expansions of rights horizons have ushered in new challenges for courts at all levels. Even if one is critic, I wish to say that there cannot be excessive and undue demands which will stress governance and bring fissures. Rhetorics and responsibilities do not go together. The dharma of sharing social costs and social wealth and responsibilities is a misunderstood subject. All of us therefore called upon to be positive contributors and not armchair critics. We need to be explorers and not shipbreakers. It's important that certain tasks are left to be responsibly taken care of by governance institutions, that they continue to be responsible. And even in a common march, task assignment are important. As I gather from comparative information from other countries, we are doing fairly well with the technology use. If what is being done at Supreme Court and High Courts can be done at the district level, the legal fraternity will become harbingers of new dimensions of doing justice. The call of the conference is a different call on the shoulder of the legal fraternity. I therefore deeply appreciate the very important conference. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, sir, for your thought-provoking and enlightening address. अब मैं विधि एवं न्याय मंत्री श्री अर्जुन राम मेघवाल जी से विनम्रतापूर्वक आग्रह करती हूँ कि वो इस सभागार में उपस्थित सभी श्रोतागण को संबोधित कर हमें अनुग्रहित करें।
नेशनल कॉन्फ्रेंस ऑफ द डिस्ट्रिक्ट जुडिशरी, इस अवसर पर माननीय उच्चतम न्यायालय अपनी स्थापना के 75 वर्ष मना रहा है और देश संविधान के लागू होने के 75 वर्ष मना रहा है। ये बहुत ही एक सुखद संयोग है। इसी अवसर पर आयोजित नेशनल कॉन्फ्रेंस ऑफ द जुडिशरी के भव्य समारोह में उपस्थित विकसित भारत के संकल्प को सिद्धि में परिणत करने हेतु प्रतिबद्ध विश्व के लोकप्रिय नेता, युग नायक, भारत के यशस्वी और तपस्वी प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी, न्यायिक व्यवस्थाओं में इनोवेशन के लिए पहचान बनाने वाले डॉक्टर जस्टिस D.Y. चंद्रचूड़ साहब, ऑनरेबल चीफ जस्टिस ऑफ इंडिया, हमारे जस्टिस संजीव खन्ना जी, ऑनरेबल जज ऑफ सुप्रीम कोर्ट ऑफ इंडिया, R. वेंकटरमण जी, लर्नेड अटॉर्नी जनरल ऑफ इंडिया, श्री मनन कुमार मिश्र जी, चेयरमैन बार काउंसिल ऑफ इंडिया, श्री कपिल सिब्बल जी, प्रेसिडेंट सुप्रीम कोर्ट बार एसोसिएशन, तथा इस सभागार में उपस्थित माननीय सर्वोच्च न्यायालय के न्यायाधीश, माननीय हाई कोर्ट के न्यायाधीश एवं देश भर से आए विभिन्न जिलों के न्यायाधीश, उपस्थित वरिष्ठ अधिवक्तागण, लॉ स्टूडेंट्स, मीडिया बंधु व डिजिटल माध्यम से जुड़े हुए सभी श्रोतागण, आप सभी को नमस्कार। सुप्रीम कोर्ट के 75 वर्ष पूरे होने के उपलक्ष्य पर आयोजित इस डिस्ट्रिक्ट जुडिशरी की नेशनल कॉन्फ्रेंस में शामिल होकर अत्यंत गर्व व हर्ष की अनुभूति हो रही है। मेरा ये मानना है कि जिला न्यायालय हमारी न्यायपालिका का दर्पण है और इन्हीं के माध्यम से आम जनता अपने मन में न्यायपालिका की छवि का निर्माण करती है, क्योंकि ये सामान्य मानवीय के लिए फर्स्ट पॉइंट ऑफ कॉन्टैक्ट की भूमिका में रहती है। न्यायालयों के बेहतर संचालन में आवश्यक व आधुनिक सुविधाओं से युक्त न्यायालय भवनों की महत्वपूर्ण भूमिका रहती है। ये न केवल न्यायिक कार्यों से जुड़े व्यक्तियों की कार्यक्षमता को बढ़ाते हैं, बल्कि चारों ओर एक सकारात्मक वातावरण का निर्माण भी करते हैं, जो कि प्रत्येक कार्य क्षेत्र के लिए आवश्यक है। हमारे लिए गर्व का विषय है कि सरकार द्वारा न्यायपालिका के साथ कंधे से कंधा मिलाकर पिछले एक दशक में ईज ऑफ लिविंग के साथ साथ ईज ऑफ जस्टिस को बढ़ावा देने के लिए सार्थक प्रयास किए गए, जिसका परिणाम हमें देखने को भी मिल रहा है। भारत के संविधान निर्माताओं ने नागरिकों को सोशल, इकोनॉमिक एंड पॉलिटिकल जस्टिस की अवधारणा दी है, लेकिन उसको लेटर एंड स्पिरिट फॉर्म में अंतिम पंक्ति में खड़े नागरिक तक पहुंच सुनिश्चित करने के लिए संविधान की प्रस्तावना में ही राजनीतिक न्याय के साथ साथ सामाजिक व आर्थिक न्याय की बात कही थी। आज आदरणीय श्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी के नेतृत्व में हमारी सरकार उसी दिशा में निरंतर आगे बढ़ रही है। जैसा कि बाबा साहब डॉक्टर भीमराव अंबेडकर जी ने कहा था कि जस्टिस, लिबर्टी, इक्वलिटी और फ्रेटर्निटी वे सिद्धांत हैं जिन पर हम एक राष्ट्र के रूप में आचरण करने के लिए सहमत हुए हैं। भारत के सर्वोच्च न्यायालय द्वारा आयोजित इस 2 दिवसीय सम्मेलन में देश की जुडिशरी से संबंधित महत्वपूर्ण समसामयिक पहलुओं तथा इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर एंड ह्यूमन रिसोर्सेज, इंक्लूसिव कोर्ट रूम्स फॉर ऑल, जुडिशियल सिक्योरिटी एंड जुडिशियल वेलनेस, केस मैनेजमेंट एंड जुडिशियल ट्रेनिंग विषयों पर 5 वर्किंग सेशन आयोजित किए जाएंगे। मुझे पूर्ण विश्वास है कि इन सत्रों में विचार विमर्श और विस्तृत चर्चा के उपरांत निकलने वाले एक्शनेबल पॉइंट्स का क्रियान्वयन सुनिश्चित करके हम विकसित भारत की यात्रा में न्यायिक सुगमता के नए आयाम स्थापित करने में निश्चित रूप से सफल होंगे। 1 जुलाई 2024 से पुराने औपनिवेशिक आपराधिक कानूनों की समाप्ति के साथ भारत का क्रिमिनल जस्टिस सिस्टम एक नए कालखंड में प्रवेश कर चुका है। भारतीय न्याय संहिता, भारतीय नागरिक सुरक्षा संहिता और भारतीय साक्ष्य अधिनियम जैसे नए कानून लागू होने से देश की कानूनी व्यवस्था, पुलिस व्यवस्था व जांच प्रणाली का नया इकोसिस्टम बन रहा है। इस सकारात्मक परिवर्तन को सहज व सुविधाजनक रूप से क्रियान्वयन करने में डिस्ट्रिक्ट जुडिशरी की बहुत महत्वपूर्ण भूमिका रहने वाली है। न्याय की पहुंच को सर्वसुलभ बनाने के लिए बॉटम अप एंड सिटीजन सेंट्रिक अप्रोच के साथ साथ टेली लॉ, प्रो बोनो, लीगल सर्विस, न्याय बंधु, लीगल लिटरेसी एंड लीगल अवेयरनेस जैसे कार्यक्रमों का क्रियान्वयन दिशा डिजाइनिंग इनोवेटिव सॉल्यूशंस फॉर होलिस्टिक एक्सेस टू जस्टिस के तहत किया जा रहा है। वर्तमान में टेली लॉ के अंतर्गत देश भर में 93 लाख से अधिक बेनिफिशरीज को प्री लिटिगेशन एडवाइस दी जा चुकी है। माननीय प्रधानमंत्री श्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी की प्रेरणा से ई कोर्ट फेज 3 के अंतर्गत 7,210 करोड़ की राशि स्वीकृत की गई है, जिसमें आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस, क्लाउड टेक्नोलॉजी जैसे तकनीकी नवाचारों के उपयोग से जस्टिस डिलीवरी सिस्टम को सुगम व सुलभ बनाया जा रहा है। वर्ष 2014-15 से सेंट्रल स्पॉन्सर स्कीम फॉर जुडिशियल इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर के तहत कोर्ट हॉल, रेजिडेंशियल यूनिट, लॉयर हॉल, डिजिटल कंप्यूटर रूम, टॉयलेट कॉम्प्लेक्स व अन्य जुडिशियल इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर के निर्माण हेतु 7,872 करोड़ रुपए की राशि जारी की जा चुकी है। यह सरकार की एक्सेस ऑफ जस्टिस की प्रतिबद्धता को दर्शाता भी है। हमारे प्रधानमंत्री जी ने 2047 तक भारत को विकसित राष्ट्र बनाने का संकल्प लिया है और इस कालखंड को अमृत काल का नाम दिया है। इस संकल्प को सिद्धि में बदलने के लिए न्यायपालिका की भी महत्वपूर्ण भूमिका रहने वाली है। मैं आज की इस नेशनल कॉन्फ्रेंस जब भी होती है तो उसका एक ही लक्ष्य होता है कि हम चिंतन, मनन और मंथन करें, अब तक चलें, कैसे चलें, इसका विश्लेषण करें और जो कमियां रह गई है उनको दूर करने का प्रयास करें। तो ये अमृत काल का नाम इस कालखंड को प्रधानमंत्री मोदी जी ने दिया है। मैं आज की इस नेशनल कॉन्फ्रेंस की सफलता के लिए अपनी अत्यंत मंगल कामनाएं प्रेषित करता हुआ और ये विश्वास करता हुआ कि चिंतन, मनन, मंथन के माध्यम से जरूर अमृत निकलेगा। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद।
माननीय मंत्री जी, देश की न्याय प्रणाली की नींव को सुदृढ़ बनाए रखने में जिला न्यायपालिका की भूमिका अत्यंत ही महत्वपूर्ण है। आज आपकी प्रेरक उपस्थिति और मार्गदर्शन से हमें संविधान की रक्षा और न्याय के मूल्यों को और भी सशक्त रूप में स्थापित करने की प्रेरणा मिली है। कोटि कोटि धन्यवाद आपका। May I now request the Honorable Chief Justice of India, Dr. Justice D.Y. Chandrachud, to please share his thoughts with us on this special occasion.
Namaste. Honorable Prime Minister of India, Shri Narendra Modi ji, my distinguished colleagues, Justice Sanjeev Khanna and Justice Bhushan R. Gavai, Minister of State for Law and Justice, Shri Arjun Ram Meghwal ji, Judges of the Supreme Court, Chief Justices of the High Courts, Attorney General for India, Shri R. Venkatramani, Chairperson of the Bar Council of India, Shri Manan Kumar Mishra, President of the Supreme Court Bar Association, Shri Kapil Sibbal, the President of the Supreme Court Advocates on Record Association, Shri Vipin Nair, Judges of the District Judiciary, resource persons and guests. On behalf of each member of the judicial family, present here in person and virtually across India, I have the pleasure of welcoming Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji in our midst. I am delighted to welcome the Chief Justices of the High Courts and the members of the District Judiciary who have traveled to Delhi from across India to attend this conference. This conference is a sequel to the All India District Judges Conference, which was held at Kutch in March 2024, where crucial issues concerning the district judiciary, the legal system, and our roles within the framework of law and society were deliberated upon. 260 district judges from all grades convened then in the stunningly beautiful environs of Kutch, thanks to our host, the Chief Justice of the Gujarat High Court. Over 800 judges from the district judiciary are in attendance this weekend. Judges of the Supreme Court and Chief Justices of all the High Courts are participating with them to make this a first of its kind conference. The conference will facilitate a dialogue between the district judiciary and everyone else so as to understand the concerns of judges of the district judiciary and enable us to chart out collective visions for the future of the Indian legal system. The district judiciary is the first point of contact for a citizen in search of justice. The district judiciary is a crucial component of the rule of law. The arc of pending cases is defined by a triangle or a pyramid, large at the base and tapering as we move upwards. Data on the National Judicial Data Grid reveals a basic truth. The district judiciary is not just the first, but more often the final point of contact for citizens. The reasons may be numerous. Many citizens are unable to afford legal representation. They have a lack of awareness about statutory rights, and there are geographical difficulties in physically accessing courts. The quality of our work and the conditions in which we provide justice to citizens determines whether they have confidence in us and is a test of our own accountability to society. The district judiciary is therefore called upon to shoulder tremendous responsibility and is aptly described as the backbone of the Indian judiciary. The spine is the core of the nervous system. To sustain the spine of the legal system, we must stop calling the district judiciary as the subordinate judiciary. 75 years after independence, the time has come for us to bury one more relic of the British era, the colonial mindset of subordination. Besides discharging the judicial function, judges from the district judiciary perform numerous other responsibilities. They are administrators of courts, mentors to young judges, and communicators in society. But above all, they are protectors of rights for those who possess them but may not know that they exist or are unable to enforce them. They oversee the development of infrastructure and engage in case management. They work with paralegals, legal aid committees, and lok adalats in the course of their work. District judges, like judges at the High Court and the Supreme Court, play a meaningful role in their interactions with members of the bar who are a vital stakeholder in the system. In the course of hearing a case, judges must provide valuable mentorship from the bench to younger advocates for learning the ropes of the profession. As seasoned members of the legal profession, it is easy to forget how apprehensive we all felt and how little we knew as green young advocates. Fresh out of law college, your patience, gentleness, and guidance from the bench will nurture the talent of young advocates and allow them to fulfill their potential. As they grow in years, they will share the mentoring they receive for the betterment of society and the legal profession. Every judge has the ability to transform not only the lives of lawyers who appear in court, but the present and future of our society. But to do so, we must realize as judges that we exist for reasons beyond our own existence. The core of our function is to serve others. That can happen when we put ourselves in the place of those who come before us with real-life stories of suffering and injustice. A young district judge from a rural court recently shared her experiences and said that while most members of the bar are respectful, a few lawyers frequently addressed her disrespectfully and with condescension. The issue appeared to arise solely due to her age and gender. Such instances can be disheartening. Your support to younger colleagues at such times is invaluable and would strengthen the fabric of the judicial institution. These multifarious responsibilities bring extraordinary challenges. It is difficult for a judge not to be affected by the actual face of suffering that each of us encounters every day. A family which is coming face to face with a gruesome crime, an under trial who is languishing for years, or the children in a parental matrimonial dispute. Judges are, despite being professionals, affected by their own brush with reality. Their mental health may suffer as a consequence. This aspect is of great consequence, but it unfortunately does not receive the attention which it merits. As a step towards a more open discussion on the topic, the third session today is on judicial wellness, with a focus on holistic wellness, stress management, mental health, and quality of life. I hope that the discussion will bring to your attention practices which not only enhance your ability to discharge your duties effectively, but enrich your lives. Our education is not complete with the completion of our degrees. While our formal education may end there, our practical learning extends beyond our days at university. Each case has the potential to make us more sensitive to the human condition and the human story behind the case. This in turn enables us to practice judging with empathy and compassion. Besides, the judicial academies conduct training programs on a variety of topics, including newly enacted laws to ensure skill upgradation. I encourage you to make use of these opportunities where highly skilled trainers are invited to share their expertise. Judges can keep up with the evolving times by updating themselves with new laws and changing societal conditions. Society changes with the passage of time, and while judges are required to be islands, standing independent, they must still be aware of the world around them. This is indispensable in ensuring that justice is delivered in each case. I must also take this opportunity to share with you data on two important aspects of the judiciary in India today. The first is to do with the adoption of technology in our legal system, and the second concerns the demographic shift in the judiciary. In 2023-24, 46.48 crore pages of court records have been scanned or digitized. 714 district court websites have been hosted on the S3 VAS platform of the Government of India. The National Judicial Data Grid, managed by the E-Committee in conjunction with the National Informatics Center, is a mine of data, not only for lawyers, but also for citizens. 2 days ago, we inaugurated the War Room in the Supreme Court, which gives us a complete picture of information pertaining to every single court in India. It reflects real-time data of over 4 crore cases across the district courts and the high courts. 970 e-Seva Kendras are fully functional in district court complexes, and 27 are coming up and running in the premises of the high courts. E-Seva Kendras assist lawyers and litigants with e-processes by providing assistance for e-filing, providing information regarding the status of the case, and so on. In so doing, these centers ensure that the digitization of the court process does not disadvantage common citizens in any way. They bridge the digital divide where it exists and reflect the principle animating citizentric services. No person will be left behind. The eCourts project has also been responsible for the computerization of over 3,500 court complexes and more than 22,000 courtrooms across India. The district judiciary has played a crucial role in deploying technology in day-to-day affairs. District courts in the country have heard 2.3 crore cases through video conferencing. This achievement is unparalleled in any other country in the world. The judgments of the Supreme Court are being translated in every language recognized by the Constitution. 73,000 judgments translated into all our languages are already in the public realm. This will pave the way for the dissemination of legal knowledge to citizens in the language which they understand. And I only hope that we will now have legal education in every regional language so that we generate new bands of lawyers who will be well equipped in their own mother tongues to argue before the courts and promote the cause of justice. Each of us must be alive to the fact that merely purchasing technological devices is insufficient in the mission to ensure that courts are citizen-centric. Rather, we must embrace and implement technological processes by utilizing the technology at our disposal and ensuring their full use in our work. I speak from personal experience when I say that this will not only benefit citizens and other stakeholders in the legal system, but will also ensure that our work as judges is conducted with greater efficiency. After the adoption of the Parichay application at the Supreme Court, I no longer use a pen to sign or mark the administrative files which require my attention. I instead review and approve files using my computer. This has created a smoother workflow for the registrars at the court as well. All my senior colleagues are also following suit. I now turn to the data on the changing demography of the Indian judiciary. An increasing number of women have been joining the district judiciary in the past few years. Women consisted of 58% of the total recruitment for civil judges in Rajasthan in 2023. 66% of the judicial officers appointed in Delhi in 2023 were women. 78 out of 108 judicial officers in Delhi were women. In Uttar Pradesh, 54% of the appointments for civil judge junior division in the batch of 2022 are women. In Kerala, 72% of the total number of judicial officers were women in the recently appointed batches. These are a few examples which paint the picture of a promising judiciary for the future. I've given you a few examples, but this example is replicated across India, whether it is Maharashtra or Madhya Pradesh. You just name the state and that is replicated. Now the question is, how do we ensure that these young women who are joining the judiciary will truly be mentors for the changing face of Indian society? And I do believe that this is the cause for hope. So we today have a young judiciary which is technologically savvy, technologically equipped, and truly representative of the changing demographic of India, of a true young nation, highly educated. They're all joining the judiciary, not as a matter of last resort, but as a matter of first resort. We must recognize that there has been a tremendous improvement in the conditions of service of our district judiciary. Now it's our time to give back to society. Because now that we have been recognized in terms of the conditions which have been created for us, it's time for us to remind our citizens that we exist for them, and what better way to do it than in the work which we perform. These are a few examples which paint the picture of a promising judiciary of the future. The second session of the conference will address gender dynamics in the judiciary, as well as the need to ensure an inclusive workplace. It is my sincere hope that this conference will elicit deep thought on how we can reshape our values and thought processes, put existing skills to use, learn new skills, and all in all, improve the manner in which the district courts function. I look forward to hearing your own thoughts and experiences, and as we enrich each one of our members of this broad and wide judicial family across India, which is present with us for these 2 days. Namaskar, thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Your leadership and vision have been instrumental in shaping our judicial system. Like always, your address today will again resonate far beyond the confines of this hall and this august assembly. भारत के सर्वोच्च न्यायालय के 75 वर्ष पूरे होने पर इंडिया पोस्ट द्वारा एक स्मारक डाक टिकट जारी किया जा रहा है, जो कि एक महत्वपूर्ण कदम है न्यायपालिका के प्रति हमारी प्रतिबद्धता और सम्मान को दर्शाने का। यह टिकट सर्वोच्च न्यायालय के 75 वर्षों के गौरवशाली इतिहास का प्रतीक है और हमें न्याय के मार्ग पर आगे बढ़ने के लिए और प्रोत्साहित करेगा। साथ ही जारी किया जा रहा है एक स्मारक सिक्का, जो कि इंडिया गवर्नमेंट मिंट कोलकाता द्वारा ढाला गया है। यह चांदी का सिक्का एक यादगार उपहार होगा, जो भारत के सर्वोच्च न्यायालय की गौरवशाली यात्रा का साक्षी है और उसकी गरिमा को और भी बढ़ाएगा। तो आइए देखते हैं एक झलक इन स्मारक प्रतीकों की।
Of the Supreme Court of India, a commemorative coin with a denomination of 75 rupees has been minted by India Government Mint, Kolkata, under the Department of Economic Affairs. This is the 11th commemorative coin of 75 rupees in India and the first commemorative coin in the 75 rupee denomination made of 99.9% pure silver. The face of the coin features the Ashoka pillar in the center with Satyamev Jayate inscribed pillar. The word Bharat is inscribed in Devanagari and India in English. On the reverse, the coin showcases the building of the Supreme Court of India along with the book of the Constitution that displays the Supreme Court's motto, Yadu Dharmastato Jaya, in Sanskrit. To mark its 75th year, the Supreme Court of India is also launching a commemorative postage stamp with a miniature sheet created by the Department of Posts, Government of India. The stamp features an image of the dome of the Supreme Court and the Ashoka Chakra. Today, on this momentous occasion, the Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi will release the commemorative postage stamp and the coin to celebrate the 75th year of the Supreme Court of India.
इसी के साथ मैं माननीय प्रधानमंत्री श्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी से विनम्रतापूर्वक आग्रह करती हूं कि वो इस स्मारक डाक टिकट का लोकार्पण कर उसे राष्ट्र को समर्पित करें। मैं पुनः माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी से विनम्रतापूर्वक आग्रह करती हूँ कि वो इस स्मारक सिक्के का लोकार्पण कर उसे राष्ट्र को समर्पित करें। May I now request the Honorable Chief Justice of India, Dr. Justice D.Y. Chandrachud, to present a memento to the Honorable Prime Minister of India. On a special occasion such as this, the Supreme Court of India would also like to present a special green gift to our very special and esteemed guest. Supreme Court has planted 75 saplings of 12 different indigenous varieties in the green lungs of Delhi, that is, the Central Ridge Reserve Forest area, as a mark of respect for the Honorable Prime Minister of India. Just as the Constitution of India guarantees the sustainable growth of our rights-based jurisprudence, this green gift represents our commitment to nurturing a greener tomorrow. May we have the video played, please?
Years of the Supreme Court of India.
May I now request the Honorable Chief Justice of India, Dr. Justice D.Y. Chandrachud, to present a framed photo of this green token of gratitude to the Honorable Prime Minister. अब मैं आदरणीय प्रधानमंत्री जी से विनम्र निवेदन करती हूं कि वो इस सभागार में उपस्थित सभी गणमान्य अतिथियों एवं श्रोतागण को संबोधित कर अपने विचारों से अवगत कराएं और उनका मार्गदर्शन करें।
कार्यक्रम में उपस्थित चीफ जस्टिस ऑफ इंडिया डी.वाई. चंद्रचूड़ जी, जस्टिस श्री संजीव खन्ना जी, जस्टिस बी.आर. गवाई जी, देश के कानून मंत्री अर्जुन राम मेघवाल जी, अटॉर्नी जनरल आर. वेंकट रमाणी जी, सुप्रीम कोर्ट बार काउंसिल के अध्यक्ष श्रीमान कपिल सिब्बल जी, बार काउंसिल ऑफ इंडिया के अध्यक्ष भाई मनन कुमार मिश्रा जी, सुप्रीम कोर्ट के सभी जजिस, हाई कोर्ट के चीफ जस्टिस, डिस्ट्रिक्ट जजिस, अन्य महानुभाव, देवी और सज्जनों, आप लोग इतने गंभीर हैं तो उससे मुझे लगता है ये समारोह भी बड़ा गंभीर है। कुछ ही दिन पहले मैं राजस्थान हाई कोर्ट के प्लेटिनम जुबिली सेरेमनी में गया था और आज सुप्रीम कोर्ट के 75 वर्षों की यात्रा के उपलक्ष्य में जिला न्यायपालिका का राष्ट्रीय सम्मेलन हो रहा है। सुप्रीम कोर्ट के 75 वर्ष ये केवल एक संस्था की यात्रा नहीं है, ये यात्रा है भारत के संविधान और संवैधानिक मूल्यों की। ये यात्रा है एक लोकतंत्र के रूप में भारत के और परिपक्व होने की। और इस यात्रा में हमारे संविधान निर्माताओं का, न्यायपालिका के अनेकों मनीषियों तक का योगदान बहुत महत्वपूर्ण रहा है। इसमें पीढ़ी दर पीढ़ी उन करोड़ों देशवासियों का भी योगदान है जिन्होंने हर परिस्थिति में न्यायपालिका पर अपना भरोसा अडिग रखा है। भारत के लोगों ने कभी सुप्रीम कोर्ट पर, हमारी न्यायपालिका पर अविश्वास नहीं किया। इसलिए सुप्रीम कोर्ट के ये 75 वर्ष मदर ऑफ डेमोक्रेसी के रूप में भारत के गौरव को और अधिक बढ़ाते हैं। ये हमारे उस सांस्कृतिक उद्घोष को बल देते हैं जो कहता है सत्यमेव जयते नानृतम। इस समय देश अपनी के आजादी के 75 वर्ष पूरे करके संविधान की 75वीं वर्षगांठ मनाने जा रहा है। इसलिए इस अवसर में भी गर्व भी है, गौरव भी है और प्रेरणा भी है। मैं आप सभी न्यायविदों को और सभी देशवासियों को इस अवसर पर बहुत बहुत बधाई देता हूं। इस अवसर पर राष्ट्रीय जिला न्यायपालिका सम्मेलन का जो महत्वपूर्ण आयोजन हो रहा है, मैं इसके लिए भी आप सबको शुभकामनाएं देता हूं। साथियों, हमारे लोकतंत्र में न्यायपालिका संविधान की संरक्षक मानी गई है। ये अपने आप में एक बहुत बड़ी जिम्मेदारी है। हम संतोष के साथ कह सकते हैं कि सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने, हमारी न्यायपालिका ने इस जिम्मेदारी का बखूबी निर्वहन करने का प्रयास किया है। आजादी के बाद न्यायपालिका ने न्याय की भावना की रक्षा की। आपातकाल जैसा काला दौर भी आया, तब न्यायपालिका ने संविधान की रक्षा में अहम भूमिका निभाई। मौलिक अधिकारों पर हुए प्रहार तो सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने उनकी रक्षा भी की। और यही नहीं, जब जब देश की सुरक्षा का प्रश्न आया, तब न्यायपालिका ने राष्ट्रहित सर्वोपरि रखकर भारत की एकता की भी रक्षा की है। इन सब उपलब्धियों के बीच मैं इन यादगार 75 वर्षों के लिए आप सभी विद्वज्जनों को बहुत बधाई देता हूं। साथियों, बीते 10 वर्षों में न्याय को सुगम बनाने के लिए देश ने कई प्रयास किए हैं। कोर्ट्स के मॉडर्नाइजेशन के लिए मिशन लेवल पर काम हो रहा है। इसमें सुप्रीम कोर्ट और जुडिशरी के सहयोग की बड़ी भूमिका रही है। आज जिला न्यायपालिका का ये कार्यक्रम भी इसी का एक और उदाहरण है। इसके पहले यहां कई लोगों ने उल्लेख भी किया, सुप्रीम कोर्ट और गुजरात हाई कोर्ट ने मिलकर ऑल इंडिया डिस्ट्रिक्ट कोर्ट जजेज कॉन्फ्रेंस का आयोजन भी किया था। इस तरह के आयोजन ईज ऑफ जस्टिस के लिए बहुत ही जरूरी है। मुझे बताया गया है यहां भी अगले 2 दिनों में कई महत्वपूर्ण मुद्दों पर चर्चा होगी। पेंडिंग केसेस का मैनेजमेंट, ह्यूमन रिसोर्स और लीगल फैटर्निटी की बेहतरी। आपने चर्चा के लिए सभी जरूरी विषय तय किए हैं। मुझे खुशी है कि सबके साथ अगले 2 दिनों में एक सेशन जुडिशियल वेलनेस पर भी रखा गया है। पर्सनल वेलनेस, सोशल वेलबीइंग की सबसे पहली जरूरत है। इससे हमें हमारे वर्क कल्चर में हेल्थ को प्रायोरिटी देने में मदद मिलेगी। साथियों, हम सब जानते हैं आज आजादी के अमृतकाल में 140 करोड़ देशवासियों का एक ही सपना है, विकसित भारत, नया भारत। नया भारत यानी सोच और संकल्प से एक आधुनिक भारत। हमारी न्यायपालिका इस विजन का एक मजबूत स्तंभ है। खास तौर पर हमारी डिस्ट्रिक्ट जुडिशरी भारतीय न्यायपालिका की व्यवस्था का एक आधार है। देश का सामान्य नागरिक न्याय के लिए सबसे पहले आप ही का दरवाजा खटखटाता है। इसलिए ये न्याय का प्रथम केंद्र है, ये पहली सीढ़ी है। हर तरह से सक्षम और आधुनिक हो, ये देश की प्राथमिकता है। मुझे विश्वास है ये राष्ट्रीय सम्मेलन, इसमें हुए विमर्श देश की अपेक्षाओं को पूरा करने में मदद करेंगे। साथियों, किसी भी देश में विकास का अगर कोई सबसे सार्थक पैरामीटर है तो वो है सामान्य मानवीय का जीवन स्तर। सामान्य मानवीय का जीवन स्तर उसकी ईज ऑफ लिविंग से तय होता है और सरल सुगम न्याय ये ईज ऑफ लिविंग की अनिवार्य शर्त है। ये तभी संभव होगा जब हमारी डिस्ट्रिक्ट कोर्ट्स आधुनिक इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर और टेक्नोलॉजी से लैस होगी। हम सब जानते हैं कि आज डिस्ट्रिक्ट कोर्ट्स में करीब 4.5 करोड़ केसेस पेंडिंग है। न्याय में इस देरी को खत्म करने के लिए बीते 1 दशक में कई स्तर पर काम हुआ है। पिछले 10 वर्षों में देश ने जुडिशियल इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर के विकास के लिए लगभग 8,000 करोड़ रुपए खर्च किए हैं। आपको एक और तथ्य जानकर खुशी होगी, पिछले 25 साल में जितनी राशि जुडिशियल इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर पर खर्च की गई, उसका 75% पिछले 10 वर्षों में ही हुआ है। इन्हीं 10 वर्षों में डिस्ट्रिक्ट जुडिशरी के लिए 7,500 से ज्यादा कोर्ट हॉल और 11,000 रेजिडेंशियल यूनिट्स तैयार की गई है। साथियों, मैं जब लीगल फ्रेटर्निटी के बीच आता हूं तो ई कोर्ट्स का विषय आना बहुत स्वाभाविक है। टेक्नोलॉजी के इस इनोवेशन से केवल न्यायिक प्रक्रियाओं में तेजी ही नहीं आई, इससे वकीलों से लेकर फरियादी तक हर किसी की परेशानियां भी तेजी से कम हो रही है। आज देश में अदालतों का डिजिटाइजेशन किया जा रहा है और जैसा कि मैंने कहा, इन सभी प्रयासों में सुप्रीम कोर्ट की ई कमेटी अहम भूमिका निभा रही है। साथियों, पिछले वर्ष ई कोर्ट्स प्रोजेक्ट के तीसरे फेज को भी स्वीकृति मिली है। हम एक यूनिफाइड टेक्नोलॉजी प्लेटफॉर्म तैयार करने की दिशा में आगे बढ़ रहे हैं। इसके तहत आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस, ऑप्टिकल कैरेक्टर रिकग्निशन जैसी उभरती हुई टेक्नोलॉजी का इस्तेमाल होगा। हम पेंडिंग केसेस का एनालिसिस कर सकेंगे, भविष्य के मुकदमों का भी अनुमान लगा सकेंगे। पुलिस, फॉरेंसिक, जेल और कोर्ट टेक्नोलॉजी इनको इंटीग्रेट भी करेगी और इनके काम को स्पीड अप भी करेगी। हम ऐसी न्याय व्यवस्था की ओर बढ़ रहे हैं जो पूरी तरह से फ्यूचर रेडी हो गई। साथियों, आप जानते हैं, बड़े बदलाव में इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर और टेक्नोलॉजी के साथ ही नियमों, नीतियां और नीयत की भी भूमिका होती है। इसलिए आजादी के 7 दशक बाद देश ने पहली बार हमारे कानूनी ढांचे में इतने बड़े और अहम बदलाव किए हैं। भारतीय न्याय संहिता के रूप में हमें नया भारतीय न्याय विधान मिला है। इन कानूनों की भावना है सिटीजन फर्स्ट, डिग्निटी फर्स्ट एंड जस्टिस फर्स्ट। हमारे क्रिमिनल लॉज शासक और गुलाम वाली कॉलोनियल सोच से आजाद हुए हैं। सेडिशन जैसे अंग्रेजी कानूनों को खत्म किया गया है। न्याय संहिता की सोच नागरिकों को सजा देगा, यही एकमात्र नहीं है, लेकिन नागरिकों को सुरक्षा देना भी है। इसलिए एक और महिलाओं और बच्चों के खिलाफ होने वाले अपराधों पर सख्त कानून बने हैं। दूसरी ओर पहली बार मामूली अपराधों में सजा के तौर पर कम्युनिटी सर्विस का प्रावधान किया गया है। भारतीय साक्ष्य अधिनियम के तहत सबूत के तौर पर इलेक्ट्रॉनिक और डिजिटल रिकॉर्ड को भी मान्यता मिली है। भारतीय नागरिक सुरक्षा संहिता के तहत इलेक्ट्रॉनिक मोड में समन भेजने की व्यवस्था बनाई गई है। इससे न्यायपालिका पर पेंडिंग केसेस का बोझ भी कम होगा। मेरा आग्रह होगा, सुप्रीम कोर्ट के मार्गदर्शन में डिस्ट्रिक्ट जुडिशरी को इस नई व्यवस्था में ट्रेन करने के लिए नए इनिशिएटिव्स भी जरूरी है। हमारे जजेज और वकील साथी भी इस अभियान का हिस्सा बन सकते हैं। जनता भी इस नई व्यवस्था से परिचित हो, इसमें भी हमारे वकील और बार एसोसिएशन का अहम रोल है। साथियों, मैं देश और समाज के एक और ज्वलंत विषय को आपके समक्ष उठाना चाहता हूं। आज महिलाओं के खिलाफ अत्याचार, बच्चों की सुरक्षा समाज की एक गंभीर चिंता है। देश में महिलाओं की सुरक्षा के लिए कई कठोर कानून बने हैं। 2019 में सरकार ने फास्ट ट्रैक स्पेशल कोर्ट की स्थापना की योजना बनाई थी। इसके तहत अहम गवाहों के लिए डिपोजिशन सेंटर्स का प्रावधान है। इसमें भी डिस्ट्रिक्ट मॉनिटरिंग कमेटीज की भूमिका महत्वपूर्ण हो सकती है। इस कमेटी में डिस्ट्रिक्ट जज, डीएम और एसपी भी शामिल होते हैं। क्रिमिनल जस्टिस सिस्टम के विभिन्न पहलुओं के बीच समन्वय बनाने में उनकी भूमिका अहम होती है। हमें इन कमेटियों को और अधिक सक्रिय करने की जरूरत है। महिला अत्याचार से जुड़े मामलों में जितनी तेजी से फैसले आएंगे, आधी आबादी को सुरक्षा का उतना ही बड़ा भरोसा मिलेगा। साथियों, मुझे विश्वास है कि यहाँ जो विमर्श होगा उससे देश के लिए बहुमूल्य समाधान निकलेंगे। जस्टिस टू ऑल का रास्ता मजबूत होगा। मैं एक बार फिर आप सबको इस पवित्र समारोह और समागम और चिंतन मनन में जरूर अमृत निकलेगा, इस आशा के साथ अनेक अनेक शुभकामनाएं देता हूं। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद।
आदरणीय प्रधानमंत्री जी, आपके प्रेरणादायी उद्बोधन के लिए धन्यवाद। आपके दिशा निर्देश और मार्गदर्शन से हमें न्याय में के क्षेत्र में नए आयाम मिलेंगे और हमारे प्रयासों को बल मिलेगा। With this, we come to the end of the inaugural program. Please join us for refreshments. Please join us for refreshments.